Welcome to Lesson 6 on parallel and perpendicular lines. We're going to start off with just a reminder of what parallel and perpendicular mean. So parallel lines are two lines that are never going to meet. And if they're never going to meet, we can look at them and I hope that you can see that they're going to have the same slope. So if slope 1 equals slope 2, m1 equals m2, then lines are, I'm going to show you a short form way of writing parallel. It looks like an 11, but they're actually longer than a normal L or a 1. That's the symbol for parallel. And then perpendicular lines are lines that cross at 90 degrees. Remember that? Cross at 90 degrees. So for perpendicular lines, if they cross at 90 degrees, there's going to be something interesting that happens with their slopes. The product of their slopes is going to be -1. And another way of saying that is that the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. And I'm going to really quickly do an example of these negative reciprocals. So these negative reciprocals. So if m1 equals 5, a reciprocal means we flip it. And negative just means it's negative. So the negative reciprocal, so m2 would be -1/5. That would be one example. Another example would be if m1 is -2/3, then the perpendicular slope, the negative reciprocal slope, m2, negative would turn into positive, and then the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2. And then the short form from this, we're going to write it as lines are, we're going to use an upside down T. This is the symbol that means perpendicular. So we're going to use the fancy upside down T as the symbol for a perpendicular. Question 1 says, state whether or not the two lines are parallel. And the way we're going to check if they're parallel, we're going to check if slopes are equal. So we're going to find the slope of each of these things and see if they're equal to each other. So if I call that 1 and that line 2, my slope of the first line is 1/3. My slope of the second line is 1/3. m1 equals m2. Therefore, line 1 is parallel to line 2. For the second one, for B, we've got line 1 and line 2. The slope of 1 is 1. The slope of 2, the slope of 1 is not 1. The slope of 1 is 2. The slope of line 2 is -2. m1 does not equal m2. So line 1 is not, I don't know if that's a real symbol or not. Line 2, I guess you just have to write that they're not parallel because I'm not sure if that's a real symbol. For question C, we're going to have to isolate y before we find the slope. So for 1, I would write -4y equals -5x. I brought the -5 to the other side, plus 16. So the first thing I did was I took the 5x and brought it over. Now I'm going to divide every single term by -4. So I get that y equals -5 over -4. So that's plus 5 over 4x minus 4. So m1, the slope of line 1 is 5 over 4. For line 2, -6 stays where it is. 2x goes to the other side, so -2x plus 16. Divide everything by -6. And we get y equals 1/3 x plus minus 8 over 3. But all I care about is this number because that's my slope of the second one. And the slope of my second line is 1/3. M1 does not equal M2. The slopes are not equal. Therefore, line 1 is not parallel to line 2. For question D, we got to isolate y again. So 3y equal for line 1. 3y equals positive 2x plus 18. Divide everything by 3. Y equals 2/3 x plus 18 over 3. I get that m1 equals 2/3. For the second one, 6y equals 4x plus 9. Divide by 6. Y equals 2/3 x plus 3 over 2. That's the part we care about. So we get that m2 equals 2/3. So in this case, m1 does equal m2. So therefore, line 1 is parallel to line 2. For the next question, we're going to check and see whether we understand what perpendicular slopes are. So if the slope is perpendicular to something, the slope that is perpendicular, we're going to write that as m perpendicular, slope that is perpendicular. And that's going to equal the negative reciprocal. Remember that? So that means we're going to flip it. And if it was over a ghosty 1, we got to make sure we write that. And then we're going to change its sign. So if it was positive, it's going to go to negative. And if it was negative, it's going to go to positive. So that's what we're going to do if we're going to find the negative reciprocal. We'll flip it and we'll change its sign. So if our given slope is 2, then our perpendicular slope, this 2 was really over a ghosty 1. So I'm going to flip that upside down so it becomes 1 over 2. I took the reciprocal, and now I have the negative. For B, m equals negative 1/3. So that negative 3, that really was a negative 3 over 1. So the perpendicular slope is going to be equal to the flip, and it was negative, so now it's going to be positive. So for m equals 1/4, pause right now, see if you can figure it out. So we're going to flip it, minus 4 over 1, or you could just write that the perpendicular slope is minus 4. And same with m equals negative 5 over 6, the perpendicular slope, I flip it, and I change the sign from a minus to a positive. So that's how we found negative reciprocals. And when we state whether or not two lines are perpendicular, that means we're going to check the slopes of these two lines. Same like how we did in question 1. So for question 1, m of line 1 is going to be 1/3. So the perpendicular slope would be negative 3 over 1. m2 is equal to negative 1/3, so they're not perpendicular. That's our final answer here, because these two are not equal. So they're not perpendicular. For B, same thing. The slope of the first one is 2, so the perpendicular slope would be negative, that was 2 over a ghosty 1, negative 1 over 2. But our actual second slope, hey, it's negative 1 over 2, so they are equal. So yes, these guys are perpendicular. For C and D, we're going to have to isolate the slope, isolate y to get the slope, sorry. So in this one, I'd have minus 4y equals minus 5x plus 16. Y equals minus 5 over minus 4x plus 16. So my m of the first one would be 5 over 4. My perpendicular slope would be negative 4 over 5. And let's see what the slope of the second one is. So for this one, 5y equals minus 4x plus 1, y equals minus 4 over 5x plus 1. So my slope of the second line is minus 4 over 5. And hey, they match. So these guys are, yes, perpendicular. And for D here, we still need to isolate our y's to find out our slopes. So 3y equals negative 2x plus 11. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 11 over 3. The slope of the first line is negative 2 over 3. So my perpendicular slope would be, flip it upside down, change the sign, negative to positive. So let's see what happens with our second line. 6y equals 4x plus 9. Y equals 4 over 6x plus 9. My slope of my second line is going to be 2/3. And when we look at these, they're close. They flip, but it's not a negative reciprocal. So, sorry, when we look, they're both positive, but one is the flip of the other. But either way, they are not equal to each other. These two are not negative reciprocals. Not negative reciprocal. And these guys here are just not equal. But either way, it's not perpendicular. So now that we know this, we did all of that just to practice. Determine the equation for a line parallel to blah that passes through the point. So first thing here, we want the equation of a line that's parallel to this. So if I can find the slope, step 1 is going to be find slope of this line. So I could write 3x plus 4 equals y, but we're used to having it be this way. It doesn't really matter. I would get that my slope is equal to 3, because remember, the slope is what comes in front. And a parallel slope, so my slope that's parallel, would also be equal to 3, because parallel lines have equal slopes. So next thing I'm going to do is find my equation of my line. I'm going to use that y minus y line equals mx minus x line. And we're going to sub in x and y from my new line. So when we do this, we get y minus 5 equals 3, because I'm going to take this slope here and I'm going to substitute it in, times x minus 2. So I get y plus 5 equals 3x minus 6, y equals 3x minus 6 minus 5, or y equals 3x minus 11. And that would be our final equation of our line. So question 5 says, determine the equation of a line perpendicular. This one's perpendicular to this, and then going through a point. So step 1 is, again, going to be find the slope. So find the slope. So of this line, we know that m of our first line is going to be 1/3, because it's just given. So our perpendicular slope is going to be minus 3 over 1, or just m perpendicular is minus 3. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to sub in the point. the 0.14. So that's going to be xy into y minus y line equals mx minus x line. So y minus 4 equals m. We figured out, oops, that was supposed to be a different color. That m was minus 3. We're going to substitute that in. So m was minus 3. X minus x line was 1. So y minus 4 equals minus 3x plus 3. Y equals minus 3x plus 3 plus 4. Y equals minus 3x plus 7. So whether you're trying to solve for the perpendicular, a line that's perpendicular to your first line or a line that's parallel, it's going to be the same things. You're first going to find the slope, and then you're going to sub in a point on the new line. We're going to practice 2 more, and then we're done. For example 6, determine the equation of line perpendicular to this and passing through our point. So this line here, it's kind of a different line. Y minus 4 equals 0. That happens to be the line y equals 4. And if I were to graph it, it would look like 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y-axis. This would be my line y equals 4. They want our new line. I'm going to make it orange. Our new line is going to be perpendicular. So that's horizontal. So our perpendicular line will be vertical. It's going to go through the point, through minus 1, 6. So if I sketch that real fast, minus 1, 6 is going to be up here. Minus 1, 6, a vertical line. A vertical line, or a line that crosses my x-axis, this is going to be a line x equals some number. So we got to find out what our x value is, and either by looking at the graph or looking at the ordered pair, we can see that the x value that we're going to put in for our number is going to be x equals minus 1. And if that didn't make sense, now that you've seen it, back up, watch that through again, and see if you can figure out what was going on. You can either do it by recognizing things or drawing a little sketch. I'm going to do it again by drawing a little sketch. For question 7, it says determine the equation of the line perpendicular to x equals 7. So perpendicular to x equals 7, and then it goes through the point. So if I were to draw this, x equals 7, my line would look like this. It's a vertical line that goes through x at the point 7. They say now I've got a new point that's at 5 across and down 1. So my new point, 5 minus 1 is here. Perpendicular means it's going to cross it at right angles. This is going to be a line that crosses the y-axis. It's going to cross it. There's my y value because that's x and y. So this is going to be the line y equals minus 1. So I started with my original line, x equals 7. I drew my point and found the perpendicular line y equals minus 1 because it crosses the y-axis at minus 1. Shoot us an email if you have any questions, and that's it. Thanks for watching.